一切众生请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊证无生。Well, the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to lead suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahari sanmyao sanputoshe.
Namo satanto suchedo ye arahati samyao samputo-xie.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, that's better, Jerry, thank you. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. It is, let's see here, embarrassed to say I have to check. It is the 7th of October. It's a Saturday night. Jinchuan Shi, would you come over for just a second here? Would you be able to film before it gets too late and ask him if he'll drive me up? It is indeed Saturday night here in Berkeley, California, and it's time for our Sutra lecture. We're looking into the Flower Garland Sutra. I haven't been here for 3 weeks, and the Dharma masters here have been covering and turning the Dharma wheel, moving everything forward. So it's nice to be back. I'll tell you some stories from Europe and our trip, but first of all, let's recite the name of the sutra and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas here. We do it in Chinese. Oop. Here we go. Namo Tafang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Namo Tafang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Namo Ta Phang Guang Fo Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Ta Phang Guang Fo Huayan Jing Huayan Okay, have you all got your sutra text? Please turn to page 14 and 15. We're on the third paragraph down in both the Chinese and the English. Starts out, Yo Shan Nanzi. In fact, every paragraph on the page starts out, Yo Shan Nanzi. Yo Shan Nanzi. Hey. So it's observe how limitlessly many hallmarks. That's the one, third one. Okay, we ready? We'll start on page 14 with the Chinese. I'll give you a line and you repeat, please. 又善男子，汝观我等，身相无量，智慧无量，国度无量，方便无量，光明无量，清净音声，一无有量。汝今一应成就此事。Okay, English, let's read it together in unison. Can we do it? Let's see, here we go. Furthermore, good man, observe how limitlessly many hallmarks the Buddha's bodies have. How limitlessly vast is our wisdom. How limitlessly many our countries are. How limitlessly many expedients we employ. How limitlessly great is our radiance. And how our pure voices are also limitlessly, scratch the pure, many, typo, that's an extra word. You can now accomplish all these qualities. Okay, those of you who have, for whatever reason, not been here recently, don't feel guilty. It's good to see you tonight, but it'd be nice to see you more often. Those of you who are here tonight, delighted to have you here. And I need to tell you where we are so you can catch up. So you make me work harder when you haven't heard the story, But that's okay. That's okay. We'll take you. If you can get here anytime, we'll take you. So what's going on? We have a Bodhisattva who is progressing up through the grounds, the stages, the levels, the grades almost. Could be the 10 grades chapter. And he's reached a very sensitive place in his progress, which is cause him to quit. It's a challenging piece of the road. It's white water, it's rapid, rocks coming up in the stream, and it's anything but smooth sailing. And so, in order to get him the next step, what happens? The sutra has it right here. The Buddhas show up. Not one, but many Buddhas show up. And we just read the Buddha's words. This was what the Buddhas say to our Bodhisattva. To do what? To get him to continue. It's clear they have an agenda. They want something to happen as a result of their coming to talk to him, which is they want him to not quit. And it's interesting because these passages, the last 2 weeks, the last 2 lectures before and tonight, they're selling him. This is a pep session, right? It's a pep talk. They're giving the Bodhisattva a pep talk. And they're applying pressure from different points of view. Last week, up above, or last time, it wasn't last week chronologically, last time we lectured it, they said, don't forget the vows that you made, because living beings are suffering like mad, and your vows were all about pulling them out of that suffering. Don't forget. They're still in misery. How could you turn your back on them, right? So a little bit of shaming, kind of. Not really, but a little bit. It's like, that would be really uncompassionate of you to leave them in their misery. Recall the fundamental vows you made to help them so they can all master inconceivable wisdom. So they're using that kind of pressure. Then, then they talked about how the state of reality is there, whether or not there's any human being who puts himself or herself into that training to realize it. That was a fascinating statement where we ended last time, which was, he says, the nature of dharmas is that way, whether or not there's anybody who like cleans themselves out to realize it. And it's like, how's that again? Okay, it's a statement about the real dharma. It's kind of a priori. It's out there in the world. This is how things are. And of course, we want you to go ahead and realize it. You can do it. That's what they're saying. Go, go, go. Okay, tonight what we hear is the Buddhas are praising the state of Buddhahood. They're saying, yeah, hey, if you become a Buddha, take a look, he says. Observe how many hallmarks the Buddha's bodies have. Okay, what's a hallmark? A hallmark is a distinguishing feature. You could say having, big eyes is a hallmark. Well, the Buddhas say they're said to have really big eyes that are violet colored. They're not, blue, they're not brown, they're violet colored. We don't have any violet flowers to look at, but there. Is that violet? Is that fuchsia? That's fuchsia colored. Ain't no violet. Oh. Okay. Over my right shoulder? Left shoulder? That was pretty funny. At lunch today, we couldn't find the translator. I said, where's Guohong? He must have gone. He was sitting directly behind me, and I couldn't turn fast enough. He's behind you. Oh, there's Guohong. Okay. Violet. The violets of dawn. John Denver song. Okay, violet. Now you know what it is. And there's other features of the Buddha's eyes described. Name another one. When you see the Buddha image, you've got these long earlobes. Okay, Buddhas have long earlobes, supposed to indicate their wisdom. When you see somebody who's got really long earlobes, it's kind of striking. It's like, oh, it looks like a Buddha. Yeah, Buddha images. What else? Buddha is said to have golden colored skin. So he'll never be an aging white man. The Buddha's a person of color from start to finish. How about that? Isn't that interesting? Golden color, yeah. So what else? Well, the Buddha has, count them, 40 teeth, they say. Not like us, who have, dentists, 36. Somebody got it right away. Good. True. Buddha has extra teeth. Like what? So what is it? This is a list of what are called the signs of a Mahapurusha, a Superman, literally a Superman. And it's independent of Buddhism. This list of special qualities and saying there are people who have these is not only a Buddhist list. There are, in India, Chakravartins, kings who turn a wheel. They're called sage kings. Can have many, many of these hallmarks. So and occasionally there'll be a child born. One of them, oh boy, the Buddha, it says, has a swastika, the ones on his chest, which happily our main Buddha standing on the altar does not. Because why? Oh my goodness. Many Buddhas that come from Asia have that swastika. And anybody who has studied Western European history has to look at that and come to terms with the sign of the Nazi Party, the Third Reich. Hitler took the Wanzi, the actual swastika from India, which back then was a sign of good fortune, good luck. It was a sign of many calves being born to your cows, many children being born to your wives, many crops coming out of your field. Good luck, right? That was what it was. And it also became synonymous with the Aryan race. Who were the Aryans? They were said to be a pure strain of humanity. Noble, unsullied, not tainted in any way. And Hitler, who was this dumpy little guy, little toothbrush mustache, wanted to be an Aryan. And he tried to engineer the population of Germany into pure Aryans, right? He said, oh, here's the sign. He took the swastika, twisted it, and put it on the flag. He made it the sign of the Nazi Party. And because of this one man, Adolf Hitler, 50 million people died. It was the number of people involved in lesser or greater ways who died because of the Nazi aggression in the Second World War. Can you imagine 50 million people? If we put everybody side by side, let's say touching, so that they could touch arms extended, and had 50 million of them, they would probably go to LA, and we'd have solid people from here. So, or at least Monterey. So, okay, anybody who knows that history, anybody whose families were touched by the Second World War, which would include mine, my father went off to war, died at age 49 because of an injury that he got in the war, would say, we don't want no stinking swastikas on our Buddhas, right? So you have to look at it and go, oh no, it's backwards. What's the difference? The Buddha's swastika, which is not displayed on our standing Buddha, but is on the chest of the seated three Buddhas, right? If you look at the Buddhas who are sitting in full lotus there, they do have a swastika. Okay. Well, one of the hallmarks, furthermore, good man, observe how limitlessly many hallmarks the Buddhist bodies have. One of the 32 hallmarks is a swastika. But if the wind were to blow, it would turn to the right. That's put your hand in front of you and go like this to the right, and that's the direction. If the wind blew, the swastika would turn that way. Hitler's version, if the wind blew, it would go that way. That's the way to tell. Is it twisted or not? They call it the twisted cross. And it's a sharp-eyed person who's looking, let's see, if the wind, that's Hitler's version. No, that's not it. That's the Third Reich. No, that's the Buddha's. That's the proper swastika. Nobody does that. They go, Nazi Buddhas, skinheads. Oh, I get it. Right. And right away, you've got a problem, people's perception of the Buddha. So, we recently came back from Poland, which suffered greatly at the hands of Hitler's policies. And the swastika there means someone in your family died from the years 1937 to 1945 because of that symbol. And so somebody said, oh, Dharma Master, here, we have some souvenirs from China that we would like you to take to Poland to distribute. Oh, that's nice, good, a little Jianping, right? Something, a little memento, something that people can hang it from their rear view mirror. It's a nice Buddha image. And each one of these little souvenirs had a swastika imprinted right on it, right there. And go, I'm not going to distribute these in Poland. I'm sorry. You don't want to go to Poland and say, here, the Buddhas and the Nazis are all confused. And they're going to go, that was 70 years ago. So, no. Anyway, so, hallmarks. Complicated, isn't it? Who would think that would be an issue? If you look into the history of the swastika, you discover some really interesting stuff, which is, it's not limited to ancient India. I think it was the first time, the earliest discovery in India was called the Harappan civilization. Harappans, it was matriarchal, first of all, women in charge. And women were the power holders and the lineage holders. And anybody want to, not encouraging you to get your phones out, when was the Harappan civilization? I think it was 10,000 BC, something like that. And the swastika was found with them. And if you go to the Indian burial mounds in Chillicothe, Ohio, they dug up swastikas from the indigenous folks who were buried outside of Chillicothe, not far from Toledo. There are these mounds. There they are. And archaeologists dug in and discovered swastikas as a symbol of good luck and fortune. Same. So east and west, the proper symbol of that, right, turning to the right has always meant good luck. Unfortunately, Hitler twisted it and didn't bring him good luck. He's reviled as a symbol of evil. So, okay, hallmarks, interesting stuff. Once you poke around the roots of human civilization on the planet, you discover some fascinating commonalities. So the Buddha has how many as his Superman? Mahapurusha, 大江湖 in Chinese. He's got 32 signs on his body. It's very male, very masculine, this particular set. And there are 80 fine characteristics, subtle characteristics that are not so apparent as the 32 major ones. And among the 80 are things that have to do with his voice. The Buddha's voice is said to be resonant. And one of them says, 不女, it's not a feminine voice. Some quality about it is yang and masculine. It's not a slam on feminine voices. It's to say the Buddha's voice has distinctly got this yang, light quality. So the Buddhas are saying, take a look here, Bodhisattva in training. If you keep cultivating, if you keep going, you can have those qualities. You can come out with the superhero's body. Furthermore, what else? Your wisdom will be vast like the Buddha. There will be nothing you can't figure out. Nothing that confuses you or surprises you or disturbs you or moves your mind, because your wisdom will always see branch tip and root. Effect, cause. Consequence, cause. Go, oh, and at the cause, you'll understand what's going to happen. What were the consequences of that action? So you'll connect root to branch. Particulars, you'll trace it right back to the principle. When you see the principle, you can outline limitless particulars. Okay, that's wisdom. Wisdom goes beyond the surface. How limitlessly many our countries are. Buddhas have countries, Buddha lands. Amitabha's land is called Sukhabhati, infinite happiness, limitless joy, right? And Medicine Buddha's country is called Lapis Lazuli, radiance. So Buddhas have lands as part of being a Buddha. How limitlessly many expedients we employ. What does that mean? Teaching methods. How do you get your Dharma out so that people pick it up and go with it? What would an expedient be? I stopped eating meat in 1969 and continued to eat fish for about 4 more years until I actually entered the monastery in 74, and 5 more years. And then it was easy to let go of fish. There wasn't any, and I didn't want it anymore. And bit by bit, kind of over the early years of cultivation, I gave up dairy products and then started drinking milk again. I gave up sugar a couple times, started eating sugar again after 3 years. I quit eating oil and salt. I ate unflavored food for 10 years until I let that go. All the cooks around me went, boy, thank you for that. What a pain in the neck you were. And so all of this, and I've been a vegan now since, I guess, 1985 or something. All of this is an attempt to deal with the question, how much nutrition do you need to keep your body going without triggering desire or anger or stuff in your body that you don't want? And in the process of cultivating, I've let go of alcohol and other intoxicants that you roll into papers and light up. Quit that at a certain point. I never was into tobacco. Didn't like tobacco. But just bit by bit, kind of letting go of stuff you put in your body. And along this way, I never had the feeling that it was like hardship to let these things go. If it was a hardship, I didn't let it go until there was something to replace it. And what replaced, if it was something like, for example, smoking dope, shh, turn the cameras off. Did he say that? So if it was something like that, that was not a problem because smoking dope made you dopey. True, it just kind of clouded your brain and slowed your responses down. And it was a relief to get that stuff out of my system. Cannabis. But what did not work for me was anybody ever saying, quit that. That's wrong for you. You shouldn't do that. As soon as I heard that, I wanted it more. Right? You can't tell me. It wasn't organically my choice. What did work was having somebody point out, you're a meditator now. Have you tried meditating without milk in your system? For example, what's it like to meditate when you haven't drunk the cow squeezings for a day, 2 days, a weekend, a week? And it was like, oh, try that. And I stopped. I guess it was a retreat, Chan retreat. And we were not in a place where milk was available. It was in Taiwan, actually, not much milk there, cow's milk. And that was back in 1989. Now there's more. So meditated for a week without cow's milk. It was like, man, I'm sitting better. It's like I feel lighter and not sticky, and my eyes don't stick to forms the way they do when I was eating, lots of ice cream and butter and cheese and dairy and stuff. And it was like, oh, yeah, it's better without it. That was when I would go, yeah. In my own experience, I prefer my body without milk, cow's milk. So that's how it works. You realize that you picked up something to replace the habit. Cutting it off doesn't work. You rebound to something else, So changing habits, the carrot works a lot better than the stick, if you know that analogy. Changing habits works when you pick up something you prefer that replaces what you let go of. Okay, so what's the expedient? This is limitlessly many expedients. What is it? Buddhas want people to wake up. Master Hua's vows are, I'll wait until you become a Buddha, then I'll become a Buddha, like that. I'll go last, he says. Which means we have to change, or he can't become a Buddha either. So how do you do it? How do you get people to actually put down one behavior in favor that is harmful or obstructs their cultivation and pick up something else? As a vegetarian, I've been watching. It's funny, I always associate Seattle and Gold Summit Monastery with becoming a real vegetarian activist. There was a publication. I staffed Gold Summit Monastery for about 9 months it might have been 1985 or 86. And there was a publication. It was a mimeographed and stapled newsletter back in the day when you ran them off yourself. Remember the cha-chung, cha-chung, cha-chung in the school office? The mimeograph. It smelled of chemicals and stuff. and these sheets came out. So somebody in Ohio had published the Vegetarian Voice. The Vegetarian Voice was one of America's early vegetarian activist journals. I wonder if it's online, if somebody's archived. And it was a couple, I think some sweet old couple, who combined their Christianity with a sense of compassion and decided that they wanted to tell people about the benefits of vegetarian eating. I remember sitting in Gold Summit, and somebody sent a copy of the Vegetarian Voice, and there was recipes and poetry, and it's like, this is cool, that people can actually get the idea from reading this. And so I decided that I wanted to include talking about the benefits of diet in my Dharma speaking, which was in its early days back then. And so I started watching the amount of propaganda for meat and dairy consumption versus the amount of wholesome eating information that was available. And one place I checked was every time I got on a plane, I would ask the flight attendants, how many special meals have been ordered on this flight? And I would count, I'd keep track. And boy, oh boy, it was discouraging. Because you check for 10 years and special meals. Oh, today we're flying Southwest. Southwest doesn't do meals. We're flying United, back when it was a good airline. And there's 130 passengers, and there are 6 special meals, right? Okay, come back in 10 years. Well, there's 130 passengers, and there's 8 special meals, you know? Like in a decade, you added 2. People have not grabbed meatless, cruelty-free, plant-based diets very much. If you want to see proof of that, get out of your car at a roadside rest on Highway 5 going north and look at everybody's state of health, right? Our morbid obesity has now jumped somewhere like, what is it now? 35% of people are obese to the point of morbidity, meaning their health is imperiled, right? Whereas 50% are overweight. Anyway, so that's the way we eat. That's American diet. Not limited to America. Scandinavian diet, Dutch, Holland, consumption of dairy. Anyway, so big-bodied people who could definitely benefit from plant-based diets. And I look at that and I think, the message is not getting through. That if you pay attention to what you feed your body, things change for you. You feel better about yourself. People in the entertainment industry who were dying at 46. Who was the comedian? A guy named May. Yesterday, 2 days ago, age 46, died of and just a very big guy. And Tom Petty died young, not a vegetarian. And on and on and on. So anyway, expedient. If I could snap my fingers, wave my, not my magic wand, my magic bell bonger handle, right? Like Harry Potter, ex Scorpio. Or like, what's her name? Hermione. Hermione was the fastest one with a spell. If I could do that and make 2 changes, what would it be? One change is I would I should probably think about this before I make a claim like that, because the wording of it matters a lot. I would send, how would it be? There's this whole cycle of causes. After World War II, during World War II, when America finally entered the war, one of the changes that had to happen was the same area of farmland had to produce more crops. So the intensity of yield, I guess they call that, had to increase. What did they do? They discovered nitrate fertilizer, chemical fertilizer. And if you put nitrogen and phosphate fertilizer on a land, you can double the amount of corn you get, or soybeans, or sorghum, or potatoes, etc. And more food for the troops, right? So stronger army, feed more men in uniform to go over and fight Hitler, or go to Japan and fight the war there. So, okay, well that's great, and the war's over, and suddenly you have this hugely productive cropland, and you're not fighting a war anymore. So what do? Well, they have all this extra corn and soybeans and sorghum. They start to feed it to large-bodied animals. Pasture land. Cut down the forest. Let's feed it to the cows. And so, wow, suddenly the number of cows available and pigs available for eating triples. When my mom was growing up, meat was something you saved for special occasions. My mom grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, a typical American city, and this was just out of the Depression, and you had meat maybe 2-3 times a week. After World War II, in the 50s, suddenly crops are abundant, you have all this food and no army to feed it to the animals. Now we got a lot of animals. Hey, let's eat a lot of meat. Let's cut down more forests to give more pasture land, grow more crops to feed more animals. Right now, an area the size of 10 football fields of the rainforest in Latin America, particularly Brazil, disappears every second. This huge swath of the planet's lungs gets meow, and then the bulldozers just push it aside so they can grow more animals, which then turn into hamburgers, right? So if I could have a change, what would it be? Where in that cycle would you intervene in order to, it's kind of like it just keeps ticking around, right? Something about the way our expectations of food, if we could turn back our understanding of nutrition to pre-World War II levels so that people didn't expect bacon for breakfast, burgers for lunch, and pork chops for dinner, or chicken for dinner and lunch meat for lunch and, Canadian bacon for breakfast, bacon and eggs. So once that became the normal, then we just needed lots of animals, and we just got used to it. But it's not, quote, normal for humans to consume that much meat. And the result is our bodies are like this. And that's where the health cost goes. Furthermore, having all those animals around, most of the drinkable water, once you get into these statistics, your head goes nuts. And I need to get on to the next, however limitlessly many, so I can get off this. At an interfaith gathering, no, it was a vegsource.com down in LA. Somebody was talking about water. It was diet-based. Of all the water available on the planet Earth, you think of oceans, you think of permafrost tundra, which covers huge swaths of the north, Canada, Russia, up there. Of all that water that is like, it's H2O, the amount of it that is actually, the word is potable, P-O-T-A-B-L-E, potable, drinkable. The amount of drinkable water is something like 5%. So 95% of the water on the planet we can't really drink because it's got too much salt in it or it's frozen or something like that. So of that 5% of the available water, how much goes into the production of meat? An astonishing 70%. 70% of the drinkable water goes into washing off dairy cows and washing all this excrement, urine that comes out of dairy cows down into the groundwater, into the water table. Because why? You got to keep the cows clean, and then they drink a lot too, but it's mostly used just to wash them, and that's wasted. And then that water goes into where? Goes into the Maumee River in Toledo, Ohio. I had this astonishing experience sitting in London, England, 2 weeks ago, watching the Thames flow by. The River Thames is not pretty, it's kind of brown, but that's its natural color. It's the longest, it's the second longest river in Europe, continuous. It runs from the whole length of Great Britain, and it's clean to drink. The Thames River comes out of the tap and you can drink it. The same in Rome, right? The same in Warsaw, Poland. The Vistula is clean enough to drink. You go, what are the Europeans doing that what are Americans doing that the Europeans are not? So then came a Twitter report. I get the Toledo Blade coming from Toledo, Twitter feed, and also our local TV station in Toledo. And there's a crisis in Toledo because the Maumee River is green. There's an advisory, the Maumee River, from the health officials. While on one hand we don't expect there will be any unfortunate results, on the other hand we would suggest that you don't boat in the Maumee this season. Don't swim in it, keep your pets out of it, and don't drink it. It's like, no problem, just stay away from it. It's okay, just stay away from our river, And when I was growing up, we were so proud because we saved the Maumee River from it being a cesspool. Ohio is famous for the Cuyahoga. You all know the Cuyahoga River, right? You don't? Nope. Any Cuyahoga River stories filter through you? Cuyahoga River flows through what city? Cleveland. Cleveland, Ohio. Famous. Every summer, the Cuyahoga River would catch on fire. And the fire trucks would come roaring up to the banks and pull water out of the faucets and turn their hoses into the river to put out the flaming river. There was so much oil, there was so much sediment and crap in the Cuyahoga River, it would catch on fire. Water shouldn't burn, right? So funny, Randy Newman writes a song about it. Burn on, big river, burn on. The Cuyahoga River goes smoking through my dreams. Funny song, ironic. Randy Newman writes about the burning river. So Toledo, now Cleveland got it together and cleaned up the Cuyahoga, and the river forgave them and came back clean once they stopped pumping gas and oil and, letting ships empty their bilges into it and stuff. Same with the Maumee, Toledo's own river that empties into Lake Erie at the western end. Cuyahoga's on the eastern end. So, okay, we saved our river. And there was a whole campaign, and the whole city got together to go find the polluters and say, no, you stop. This is our common resource. We want our river back. The Maumee, while it didn't burn, it was really, fish were floating belly up. All the birds stayed away. All the amphibians stayed away, right? Humans stayed away. So the whole city got together with the press and with the university and said, stop polluting it. It came back. The Maumee River forgave everybody. And you could boat in it. You could swim in it. You could picnic by the banks of it. It was beautiful. Fish were back. The birds were back. The frogs were back. It was wonderful. And the Maumee River was clean as a result. Add 20 years, and the pictures that came to me in London as I was sitting by the River Thames looking at the clean water drinkable. The Maumee River is filled with what are called algal blooms, A-L-G-A-L, algae. It's green and it's toxic. The river just turns this hideous, horrible green color, as does the Maumee, the Lake Erie, the western end. What's going on? Phosphate and nitrogen fertilizer from all the farms upstream in the Maumee, and the agricultural animal runoff from what they wash the cows down. It goes into the groundwater, and what does it do? It combines with the oxygen in the water, and it causes this algae to grow. And the algae grows really fast, and it chokes the fish, and it turns everything green. And congratulations, Monsanto. It's your product that is in the water. And I read all the correspondence on the article, all the comments in the article, 50 comments, and on Facebook. I actually saw it first on Facebook. And everybody's going, gee, what should we do? I wonder how this happened. Boy, I sure hope somebody takes care of it. You know, how could the water turn green? And this science has been out there, available, for a decade now, because our river is not the only one this has happened to. Nobody wants to consider the possibility of cutting back a bit on meat and dairy. Nobody wants to hear that it's Monsanto. The companies that create this pesticide, the herbicide, and the fertilizer, and say, this is what we're going to sell you. It's a law that you cannot talk against these companies, because during the Obama administration, the head of the FDA that regulates these things was previously a Monsanto Corporation lawyer. And of course, he's not going to pass any laws. In fact, the opposite. It's illegal to criticize and to find fault. And if you do the research and publish your paper, you will be hounded out of academia, which is what happened. Now, I've gone a little bit, you got me on my soapbox. I shouldn't sit on my soapbox. This looks like a soapbox to you? Yeah, sitting on my soapbox. So, anyway, back to my wishes, what would it be? Would it be if we could get people to eat plants more and meat less? Bit by bit, we wouldn't have so many cows. The forests would return because we wouldn't need so much pasture. We wouldn't have to have such an incredible crop yield. There's so much overproduction of milk that the farmers pour it down the sewers, right? Why don't we ship the milk to Haiti? Why don't we ship the milk to the Congo? Or, politics. And if we do it, then Canada wants to know why we did it to their markets. And so, wouldn't it be great if people's bodies could kind of find some harmony and balance and health with the crops that grow in the ground, without all of the we outsmart ourselves, technology that destroys things. So anyway, that's what I would do. If I had a wish, I would say, less meat, more plants. However you work it out. Change a habit. That would be an expedient. I don't know how to do it. People don't want to hear what they don't believe. And what they believe comes mysteriously. Often it's what their parents believe. And to actually change it in a generation, no, actually I know more, Mom. How many of you have come home from college or come home from the monastery and said, I'm vegetarian, and had your mom go, oh no, you're not. Not in my house, you're not. And then you have to find an expedient to encourage your mom to let you do something a little different than what she learned from her mom and her mom learned from her mom. of what food is, right? Complicated stuff, isn't it? When it gets right down to what do you know? What do you understand? What do you believe? Tough. Expedience. Okay, yeah, golly. And so I don't often preach about me because I have what's called a bully pulpit. This is my privileged seat. And you're a captive audience. I noticed nobody stood up and walked out tonight. Maybe online. Anybody shut me off online? You didn't want to hear this preaching? Well, what about Buddhism? Let's hear about the sutra. Okay, you're right. So I don't do it because people say, my mom loved me and she was not giving me bad food. Stay out of my dinner plate. Right? My mom loved me and that's what she fed me. Who are you to tell me that she didn't love me and fed me bad stuff? Can't do it. You have to find an expedient way. My best answer is you make vegetarians by what you put on their tongue, not by what you shake finger in their face. Which finger you shake in their face, or which principle. You don't want to hear principles. Don't give me those statistics. Yick, I'm sick of statistics. But give me some food that tastes really good, that I know didn't involve killing or controversy, and maybe I'll eat another one, try it again. And you teach somebody how to cook it. Oh boy, then you might have a convert. So, how limitlessly many expedients we employ. Hallelujah. How limitlessly great is our radiance. Big light. Buddhas have big light. That's that awesome. Can anybody see this back here next to Michael? There's a standing Buddha image on the wall. That particular painter really got the aura. It's an Amitabha image, and that's actually a Buddhist nun who painted that. Camera can't see it unless the camera turns around, but it's a Buddha image standing Amitabha, and if you get a chance, go look at that image up close. That nun who painted it really understood you can almost see the lights move as you look. So limitlessly great is our radiance. Buddha's auras are brilliant. And, I might add, so is yours, so is mine, but we cover it up so it doesn't shine. How our pure voices are limitlessly many. Pure voices. Many pure voices. So, the Buddha has multiple voices? Yeah. The Buddha speaks how many languages? The Buddha speaks bird. The Buddha speaks ghost. Right? The Buddha speaks philosopher, poet, business person. Right? Boy, oh boy. I remember there was once at City of 10,000 Buddhas in the early days, there was a Sangha member who was said to have Wu Yan Liu Tong, the 5 spiritual eyes and the 6 faculties, the 6 spiritual abilities. And there was somebody there who, what was the circumstance? I think it had to do with abortions. Somebody had had numerous abortions, and because of various circumstances, and she was repenting. And this woman also had a lot of illness, and this would happen occasionally. Somebody, after the lecture, still everybody was there because it was lecture time, and this person came out and bowed to Master Hua while everyone was still sitting there and said, "Sure, Hua, can you please help me? I have lots of illnesses." And Shifu said, "You've got a bunch of ghosts around you." And everybody's like, And she would say, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Shifu said, "There's lots of ghosts around you. They all want to kill you. They want your life because you killed them." And this woman starts to weep and sob. She was trying to brazen her way through it. and be, tough and in denial. And then Shifu said, it's fine, you ask me, and I'm telling you. He said, these are ghosts who were supposed to come to you, and you cut their lives short with abortions, and they want your life. That's the situation, like it or not. And so then she confesses, and she says it was various men who forced her. She wanted to keep the children, and she couldn't. And so she said, please, Shifu, what can I do? How can you, be compassionate? So he said, all right, you're sincere, and I understand your situation. It wasn't your choice. However, tell that to the ghosts, because you were the one who did it. And she said, what can I do? And the person, the Sangha member who could see this said, oh my goodness, she said, Master Hua has gathered in these ghosts and crossed them over. They're going. And then she said, now they're all gone. And then people like said, what do you tell us what you're seeing? And she said, well, how do you communicate to a ghost child, a ghost baby? You don't use language? She said, Shifu gave them cookies. Invisibly in empty space. He brought them in and gave them cookies, and they grabbed the cookie, and he was able to cross their soul over to the Pure Land, so they disappeared. And the reason I bring this up is, you think of limitlessly many voices. What voice do you use to talk to ghosts in? You don't. You use language they understand. They're hungry. Give them a cookie. That's what talks. So it's, when we hear our pure voices are limitlessly many, I think it means ability to communicate, right? So that's a dramatic story, and it also involves things that I don't see. And because this nun was describing what Shifu did, we got the byplay. But then Shifu told the woman who was kneeling and sobbing that she really, really had to get her wisdom together and not be pushed around by men when she knew better, And he said, if you do it again, then I can't help you, And you should really bow and repent of this situation where you kill children who want to come to you, and should be yours. So and of course that drops us right in the pro-life, pro-choice, but he was pointing to that woman's powerlessness as she understood her share in it. He was trying to empower her to make better decisions at the point of conception, and I don't know I don't think she ever came back, but anyway. And there are countries where abortion is the primary source of birth control. Not just like America, where you have multiple choices. In some countries, in Asia, that's the number one way that you deal with pregnancies. So real life, right? How do you communicate? And the Buddha says, take a look. We have limitlessly many voices. We are ready to speak to all these different species of living beings in ways they understand. So, you can do it too, they say, if you keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. You can now accomplish all these qualities. Okay, so far so good. 又善男子，如今识得此一法名，所谓一切分别。善男子，如来法名，无量入，无量坐，无量转，乃至百千亿，哪有他劫不可得知？如应修行，成就此法。Moreover, good person, good man, good woman, It is right that you've understood this fact, this Dharma. That is to say that all Dharmas neither come into being nor are they different from one another. Even so, good man, the Tathagata's understanding of phenomena, their unlimited mastery, unlimited creation, and unlimited evolution couldn't be known in as many as 100,000 kotis or nayutas of eons. You should cultivate and achieve their understanding. Okay, here the Buddhas are pulling back the cover on nature, you could say, on the way the universe works, and they're saying, boy, this is deep stuff, the Buddhas understand it, and you can too. You should. This is you can handle this knowledge. You should do it. Okay? I've summarized what they've said, but you get it. Take a look. 如今师的次一法明. You should, it's appropriate that you get this one Dharma clarity, it's said. So we translated, understand this Dharma. And a Dharma here means truth or phenomena or fact. You understand this, they're saying. So what we mean by that is all dharmas fundamentally don't arise. You go, what? What are you saying? This dharma fundamentally doesn't arise. Okay, how could it be? Well, what would we call this? This is a bell resting cushion. That's the purpose of this little device. It's a bell resting cushion for resting your bell on, right? Oh, I know what that was. That's a bell resting cushion. Okay, is it really there? Well, it's really there. There it is. I can hear it, I can feel it, I can see it. But the feeling, the hearing, the seeing of it is dependent upon my senses. My senses, eyes, skin, ears, are completely a coming together of conditions. Right? Suppose I close my eyes, then I throw it up in the air and I miss it, right? Oh, suppose my ears were failing me. I couldn't hear that sound. The conditions weren't right for that. So perceiving the object, naming it a bell resting cushion, and knowing the object is here is only a temporary coming together of conditions. Throw this in the fire and it goes up in smoke and you just have some ash and some plastic residue, right? So the Buddhas are right. This fundamentally take away the conditions that create my seeing that thing, and it doesn't exist. But here it is. So you go, wow, that's suddenly what's true, what's real? Right, correct, that's the right question. So the Buddhists say they don't come into being, but they're also not there. That's what the Buddha sees with his wisdom. Sounds like nonsense? It's not. It's deep. It's deeper than the surface. So the Buddhas here are like pulling the cover back and saying, look deeply, there's more here than you know. And you can know it. You can know what Buddhas know. One of the neat things about the sutra is it shows us what the Buddha sees. Get to look through the Buddha's eyes. Okay, so that kind of knowledge, the mastery of it that Buddhas have, this ability to make things happen, and its evolution, the changes that things go through with the Buddha, most people are clueless about it. You can know all about it. It's yours to know, they say. Okay, so far so good. Deep sutra, but what's behind it? The Buddhas are pushing the Bodhisattva not to stop. Keep cultivating. Seems bizarre what's happening in front of you. Be patient, get through it, and all of these things will be yours to master. Okay? Page 16, 17. Let's do another one here. on all sides. And for me, I know that I was experiencing being in Europe at a different level than many of the people on the delegation. One of the reasons being some of the folks didn't speak English. So what were the clever ways around that? We had one laywoman from Taichung, someone who goes on almost every delegation, whether we go to China or Malaysia or Hong Kong. This time she came to Europe not speaking any English. And there were, among the 50 of us, there were other people who were more Chinese speaking than English speaking, and they translated for her, but not always. And so we discovered that because Heng Shi posted his experiences on a blog in Taiwan regularly. Heng Jiang would come back from a tour of the castle or the cathedral, and he would type it up and post it to a blog in Taiwan. And this woman from Taichung she had a link, and as soon as the blog was updated, she'd go read about what she had seen the day before. So she had a day break in between walking through the castle and reading what it was. So pretty funny. And I was seeing things. This is, for example, going to England. This is my 4th trip to England and also my 4th trip to Poland. I've had an occasion 4 times now to go to Poland over the years. First time was in 1989 with Master Hsuan. And I saw a lot more this time not because I went out so much, but because I knew the people who came around to hear the Dharma. Because in some of them, there were 3 individuals who took refuge back in 1989 who still, keep coming back. And because I knew these folks, I had a chance to talk to them, listen to them, and find out more about their lives over the days that we were in Poland. And discovered strong women, particularly compassionate, kind-hearted men as well. But the women impressed me tremendously. Artists. Here is Kinga, who's a painter, and she paints with a palette knife, flower paintings. She's been a Buddhist for 20 years, but is not happy. She first followed a Tibetan teacher, and that crashed, and then she moved to Zen, and she thought that there was more to life than Zazen, sitting facing the wall. So good timing, we showed up and she discovered, there is so much more. There's education, there's sutras, there's Pure Land, there's Vinaya, there's mantras. So she came around, and especially at Karma Kitchen, this delegation had the benefit of service space, right? We had Trishna Shah in London, and then Audrey, Lynn, and Shital, and Kushmita Sangvi came from Pune, and then Nipun came. And we did Awaken Circles, and we did Karma Kitchen, and had an amazing experience. But again, it was particularly the women whose stories impressed me so much. One of them is a photographer named Magda. She is president or chairperson of the Polish Photographers Association, and she just gave myself and someone else a copy of her latest book. Notice black cover, beautifully presented black and white photographs of widows, starting with her own mother. It says Mama. The photos bleed off the edge, and that's a picture of her father seen through a compressed frame as her mom's hands are holding a picture of Magda's dad. And grief, right? Just heart-rending grief. She used a lot of wide angle, so all this empty space where the husband should be, and how mom passes her time smoking cigarettes, watching television, alone, And then that's the end of mom's article. And then she has woman after woman playing cards, looking at her wedding ring, Because why? In Poland, lots of men went off to war, didn't come back, or were sent off to concentration camps, didn't come back. Or were sent off to the gulags, Siberia, by Stalin, didn't come back. And so this photographer sensitively, invited these women to share their stories and took black and white photos and published this. This is a 2-pound book, of solid with beautiful, heartbreaking photos. And we went to a musical performance that was right in the downtown heart of Warsaw, and listened to the Warsaw Village Band, which is an amazing folk group that's been around for 20 years now, that has 6 musicians, 3 of them female, who stand in front, and the 3 men in the back, the percussion. And they sing roots music. And this particular performance was their 20th year. And what they did was they said, we want to credit the masters of the music that we love. So this is folk music and roots music. And what they did is they went into the villages and found the current 70 and 80-year-old musicians, grandmas who knit to their music, and old fiddlers who are 70 years old who play dance music, and they brought them on the stage and they made a video of each individual performer of 2 minutes long, introducing him. Beautiful video screen. And they showed this old fiddler who was in a log cabin in a village in the mountains. And he said, oh yeah, he said, it was the dances. I used to love to play the dances. And he said, we just invite the girls to come, because if the girls come, the boys will come after them. We get the girls there, and then we play this music. And in the video, he looked massive, he's sitting on this bed playing these rustic old fiddle tunes. They bring him on stage, and he's about 5'2", and he's skinny, probably weighed 90 pounds, and he played this magnificent fiddle. And they, celebrated him. And then an old woman who sings with a loud, harsh voice some old, embarrassingly rustic love song. And everybody in the audience laughed because she was shouting out about how fat the bride was and how red-cheeked she was. And all the women in the Warsaw Village Band sang along with her, learned the song from her, sat at her feet to learn this old song. It's just so wonderful to see folk music alive. And they went back and found the sources, went into the mountains and the villages and found the real people, and brought them out and put them on stage. Said, these are our masters. These are the people we follow. So it was like, wow, that's so cool to have the folk process put in the front, and that kind of thing. And for me, it was the chance to get into people's stories and into their lives. And it had to be done through translation, because I don't speak Polish. And I gave a lecture or talk or interview or concert every night, pretty much, from the first night. And told a story at lunch today about going to London to get online to speak where? To Hangzhou, China, where there was a room with 500 people in it, huge hall, and gave a talk in English for 90 minutes to the Dharma speaking competition. And they were using WeChat to live stream it. And at the bottom of the window, they showed the total of people at that moment online. And after 90 minutes, there were 80,000 people listening to my talk. And they go, yeah, sure, that's China scale, yeah, no big deal. You got to see the big ones, you know. Okay. So, wowee. And because I was talking almost every night, the quality of translation mattered a lot to me. One of our best translators is a fellow named Bijek, and I'm learning, difficult to pronounce. But Vijek is for his day job, he is a tour guide through a forest. He's a forester who gives guides and protects the forest and talks about, any pollution being dumped in there and how many, anybody hunting birds illegally and, what kind of invasive species coming in and stuff. And we discovered later that he is an incredible artist of Buddha images. Batik. This is fabric. Isn't that incredible? So, people who have deep roots with the Dharma. And so, I didn't do so much touring of external sites, although we did indeed go to the relatively new Museum of Jewish History in Warsaw. And because I've studied the history of Judaism, the religion, intensely at Graduate Theological, I was really prepared for the tour that we had. The tour guide didn't slow down. She didn't interpret. She had a full agenda of topics she had to cover, and she was throwing out these, intermediate to advanced terms. And I was looking around at our group and realizing that very few of the people were understanding what she was saying, because she was just down. Now we're going to the 15th century, and over here you'll notice that when the Cossacks invaded, the Zionists beginning, and the trouble was, from the royalty was countering the Jewish moneylenders, and I was like, yeah, oh, I didn't know that. Wow, and I was it was for my level, and I don't think many of the people without a background hearing it for the first time were able to absorb. But that filled in a bunch of gaps in my understanding of Jewish history. And that was really valuable. The museum is in the ghetto, in the Warsaw ghetto. And one of our Sangha members said, "Psst, psst, what's a ghetto?" And I said, there's the word on the wall, Ghetto. It's good that you have to ask, and how sad that most people don't know. In the case of Warsaw, what it meant was the Warsaw Jewish ghetto happened when the Nazis came in and said, we're building a wall here. All Jews will live behind it. They put them in one corner of the city, built the wall. That was the Jewish ghetto, right? And there's one door, and you had to get your papers inspected before you could come out to go to work or go home. And of course, the next step was to pull people out of the ghetto and put them on trains and send them to the camps. So anyway, there was multi-levels of experience there. And powerful encounter with people for me, and rich, and boy. The last night that we were there, I had the opportunity to give a lecture at a university that has been in constant session since 1363. Jagiellonian University is, I think, the third oldest university on the planet. And since the 14th century, they've been regularly meeting classes to this day. Nicholas Copernicus graduated from Jagiellonian, the one who said, we orbit the sun. And he got thrown in jail. That was his school. They have a copy of his original work. Pope John Paul was a student at Jagiellonian University, and I found out as we were leaving that we picked our lodging out of off the internet because we wanted a clean, inexpensive place to stay. So we picked the Salve Apartments in downtown Krakow. This is the city of Krakow, not Warsaw. And so the Salve Apartments, okay, good, like it. And I was on the fourth floor, and it was pretty. They'd redone the bathroom. The bathroom was really nice, and shower stall and all. Really hot water up on the fourth floor. But otherwise, it was pretty basic, pretty simple. And the landlord said, "Oh, who's up on the fourth floor?" The Fasher, he says, "Oh, you know who stayed there when he was a student? Pope John Paul. You're in his apartments." It's like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, pretty basic, He said, yeah, his name was Karol Wojtyła, something like that. And when he was the student at Jagiellonian University. And we went to the castle in Krakow, Wawel Castle, where there was a dragon. Great story of that's where Krakow's dragon lives. And they have a dragon cave that you walk through, and it's pretty raw, very, very cool. Poland, by and large, is a wonderful place to tour because the people are just physically beautiful, the air is clean, the water is clean, and there's no pandering to tourists. The hype hasn't discovered Poland yet. It was behind the Iron Curtain just a little while ago. And of course, they're developing quickly, but it's still relatively undiscovered outside of Europe. Incredible history. The buildings in Krakow, where we were, by and large, were built in the 15th century. And they were not horribly destroyed at the end of World War II. So, anyway, we have a bunch of photos, thousands of pictures. We put our photos together, and we'll encourage, in the room here, there are 3 or 4 of us who are on the tour with us, and next week there'll be more people back, and we'll hear stories from everybody. Okay, so while we're before we transfer the merit, I wanted to, what do they say, give a particular shout out to Bernard Spoth up in Alberta, who I hope is watching. He's going to have his 80th birthday. This is a Canadian friend whose son Eric got in touch with me. He didn't want Dad to know that he had told me about his dad's birthday coming up, and his dad, Bernard, did masonry work at Avatamsaka Monastery, and is a faithful watcher of the sutra broadcast, and is his mom, Eric's mom, Erica, is a devout Roman Catholic, and Dad needs to embrace her Roman Catholicness and not try to change her faith. Okay? So be a good Buddhist and compassionately celebrate the fact that you have a wife who is a devout believer. Doesn't matter what camp, what flag she's wearing. What we saw in Europe was the effect of people reacting to superficial differences, and it's tragic, and it's one of the worst parts of humanity, that we respond to the superficials to the point of extermination of entire religious groups, social groups, when a more graceful and humane way to do is to discover what's deeper and the same. And you know this. I don't have to preach it, but the results of pointing out the differences and asking people to agree with us is horrific. And the results of joyfully accepting people's humanity and their decency and their compassion that's kind of the transcendence of humanity. That's humanity's best moment, when we come together to share and celebrate what we have in common. There are differences, and long-lived differences. An oak tree is not a maple tree, and a birch tree is not a sycamore, right? But they all drink from the same groundwater. And humanity needs to come together so that we can save the planet for everyone. Okay, so happy birthday, Bernard. And you got a good family going there. And 4 kids, and Eric is your youngest, and he was kind enough to let me say happy birthday to you. So we were just in Alberta at the grand opening dedication of Avatamsaka Monastery. It went very well, and hope to be back in Calgary before long. So, can we dedicate the merits of our time that we spent together this week, and we'll be back next week with more of the Bodhisattva's journey into the 8th ground. And if you've got one of these gadgets, you can dedicate the merit here with me. Please make a wish. Goodness knows there's plenty of places that could use our dedication. So here we go. Every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. Pay our minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their envy. endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Could everybody grab your songbook that should be in front of you there? And I was looking at y'all have them or not? Some do, some don't. Okay. I was looking at our new CD, which is in the process of being mastered. And turn to page 102. And I got off on my soapbox today talking about the effect on the planet of meat eating that started in the post-war green revolution with nitrate fertilizer, etc. And one of the things that is a byproduct of that is deforestation, cutting down the trees. Deforestation is a major contributor to the heating up of the planet, which has now launched yet a fourth hurricane coming on the Gulf Coast of Florida now. Michael, if you're out there, hope you're making it through. What's the name of this one? Anybody check? It hit, what's it called? Nathan? Nate. Hurricane Nate, like Nathan? Okay. And if the water's hotter, more evaporation, and then it comes back down. That's what happened to Houston. And by golly, I was reading today about Japan. Japan is a series of islands, and if the ocean rises, Japan has some major displacement, as does Miami, as does New York City, as potentially does the Bay Area. Coastal countries, coastal cities are at risk as the planet warms up. If the trees were allowed to rest where their roots put them, trees can't run. And people come along and decide we're going to clear the land, cut the trees, and the function of trees is reduced, which is to keep things balanced and get through photosynthesis, keep the temperature constant. So if you cut the trees down in order to allow cows to graze that then turn into hamburgers, you get a byproduct, which is things warm up. So in Oregon, we saw clear cutting of forests, which is one of humanity's lowest moments. And this song was a result of experiencing clear cutting, coastal Oregon forest. Those of you who know it, please join in, don't hesitate. It goes, the second verse is the chorus, and then the chorus is second, and then fourth, and then last one. It goes like this. Turtle Island lullaby, song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight. We're going to brace the pitch here. Turtle Island Lullaby. Song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Okay, that's your part. Can you do that? You got the words right there. My tall fir trees touch the sky, where eagles raise their young. Timber wolves would serenade. When sundown song was sung, salmon swam home to their stream. Every year you'd find them there. Redwoods like cathedrals, every breath was like a prayer. Here we go. Turtle Island Lullaby. Song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air, you wasted all my topsoil. You fished my waters dry. You clear-cut my green trees. I can't breathe and I can't cry. What about your children? How far ahead can you see? Never mind 7 generations. What we do to our neighbors becomes our destiny. Turtle Island Lullaby. Song for the end of day, ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Good night to the salmon. Good night to the seal. Good night to the turtles. May your spirits be free. No one owns the fire. No one owns the air. No one owns the water. The earth's a gift to share. Life itself is sacred. May we all one day be healed. May we find our great compassion when our kinship is revealed. Turtle Island Lullaby. Song for the end of day. Typo there. To ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Sounds good with everybody singing. That's good. Thank you. Okay, what do we got? We have a dialogue coming up. Here you see Guodong Fa Shi, the chief abbot of Dharma Drum, Fa Goshan, and me. There's going to be a dialogue happening in Chinese down in Milpitas on October 28th. The topic is自在和谐永保幸福. Y'all got that much? 自在和谐永保幸福. I don't know what that's called. It's going to be something like Buddhism for the modern world. How to get along. And it's all in Chinese. So, you're welcome. Down in Milpitas, 100 South Milpitas Boulevard. They want you to, so, 敬请网路报名属标，当天凭标入场. So, you have to register online. No website. Oops. 活动报名. 哦，敬请网路报名。可是呢，没有 website. I wonder if they know that. Interesting. They want you to register online and there's nowhere to do it. Okay. Glitch. How was the festival there? Yeah? Crowded, yeah. We had two people who they wrap something around your wrist. You don't get a stamp, right? Nothing, really. Oh, it's free. That's why. To Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. You all know about Hardly Strictly? HSB, Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. This is the 14th year? 17th year that a man named Warren Hellman, a wealthy fellow in San Francisco who loves old-time music, invited Hazel Dickens, a real mountain singer from North Carolina or West Virginia, to come to San Francisco and give a concert, and it was free. And I think Emmylou Harris was also part of it, and maybe Gillian Welch. And anyway, it became a custom. This time every year, Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, which is to say, bluegrass originally, but not strictly at all. And they have these 3 days of concerts for free. And 1 million plus people crowd into Golden Gate Park. Well, you were never invited. They don't do DJs at Hardly Strictly. Maybe that's a little bit too strict. So, but it's mostly old-time acoustic music. But not that. There's also electric guitars. This year they had... Who did you see today?
We saw
Rising Appalachia, yeah.
We saw Abigail Washburn and, oh my goodness.
Bela Fleck?
Bela Fleck and Abigail Washburn.
Yeah. That was early in the morning.
Yeah, early in the morning. And then we saw, who was the guy that you liked there, Lauren? The Wood Brothers. Can't remember who else we saw.
Did you see Gillian Welch?
Yep, caught a little bit of hers.
Okay.
By that time it was very, very crowded, so you couldn't really see very much of anything.
Yeah. Lots of people. And for free. And no, I guess beer is okay, but no hard alcohol, no visible drugs, and there's no tickets, there's no fighting, and just a feeling of peace and love, and and wonderful music. You know, they have 4 stages going simultaneously, right?
I think yesterday they had 4 stages. Today they had more like 8.
8 stages with all playing at once. It's a huge lineup of entertainment. Some of the world's best acoustic, and they had a group from Africa yesterday, Siu Kuti, and Cairo, or Egypt 80 was his name, and they stream it live. So I was watching from here, and it's amazing. This is music you wouldn't get to hear unless you traveled to Marrakesh or Morocco or somewhere. So just great, good experience in San Francisco. It's one of San Francisco's best conventions now. Best practices is inviting people to come for free to enjoy this incredible music. And it's also Fleet Week in San Francisco, right? They've got the ships are in and the Blue Angels are overhead, and so this is not the day to try to drive through the city. Traffic will stop you, but wonderful experience. Okay, let's see here. How about some announcements? We have tomorrow, there is Buddha recitation happening here, not the Donglin method, where you, lots of silence in between. This is our CTTB method, the other way of reciting the Buddha's name, starting at 8:30, going till 4:30. So anybody who wants to experience reciting the Buddha's name, this is the place tomorrow. And you're all welcome. And that includes lunch? Yep, lunch is included. So I will be up at City of 10,000 Buddhas tomorrow. First time in quite a while. What else do we have? Jinchuan Shi? A week of activities?
我们有地藏法会21号，10月21跟22，礼拜六、礼拜天2天，还有我们有八关斋戒。
That's October.
Yeah, October， 就是在过 Yeah, 2 more weekends.
Okay, so October 21st and 22nd, there's a 2-day Earth Store Bodhisattva recitation event here, including the Eightfold Precepts in the morning. So we'll be celebrating Earth Treasury Bodhisattva, Kshitigarbha, and what does that include? Reciting the sutra, and then his name, or bowing, or what do we do?
Yeah, we decide in Chinese, the sutra. Then we walk in, same CDTV process.
Okay.
Yes, CDTV style. The sutra first, after that, then we walk in, deciding also the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
没有地藏，我们讲地藏。哦，我们还有另外一个就是感恩节，我们有3天的阿弥陀佛3天佛山，一样的我们有八关斋戒。
So around Thanksgiving, there will be 3 days of Buddha recitation.
Yeah.
Including Eightfold Precepts in the morning.
Yeah.
All right.
也可以线上报名。
You can sign up on the day, right?
Yeah.
Not in advance?
我们在做，再跟他做一个网络。
You're nodding your head, but I don't know what you're nodding. We'll have an online sign-up, we'll announce. Okay. That's in November. Okay. Well, more stories next week with photos of our recent trip to Europe, London and Poland. And we will have most everybody back. Some folks took a couple extra days and stopped by Paris, not too shabby. And we'll get stories from their trip. All right. Any How many people online, Jerry? 36. Okay, we had as many as 50 a couple of weeks ago. Now that's bittersweet because that means you're not here in person. But if you're in Hong Kong or Australia or Poland, then we'll take you online. If you can come and listen, it's great to have you here. Okay, what do they say? They say, 师道之进，非道在退，在善而从，不善而改. If it's the Tao, advance along it. If it's not the Tao, come backwards. Come back. Pick what's good of things you heard and cultivate it, and the things that are not so good, change them inside, and we'll see you all next week. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master.